What's news, Artifam? This is Artifact News coming to you with episode number 13, Space Pod Burning, The Warning. Wow, it's been almost an entire year. February 2nd, 2022 marked the first ever tweet from Artifact about the space pod burning. It's been an entire year, basically, of just conjecture and speculation and hype and delays, and there's been some disappointment, but there's been a ton of excitement. And now here we are with the excitement at an all-time high. And we have a campaign starting Monday, January 30th. You might be watching this now, this video right here now, moments away from starting the campaign. What is it going to entail? We have no idea. And that's what we're going to talk about in this episode here. We're going to cover 3 topics primarily. The first one is going to be the space pod burning, the mechanics, and the campaign, and any other information that we have related to the space pod burning at this point. The second thing we're going to talk about is a little bit more speculative. It has to deal with Animus, and is there going to be a breeding mechanic? So we have a little bit of information on that. We're just going to take a look at that and also observe one of the other projects in the ecosystem that did have a breeding mechanic and see how that all might fit in for Clone X. The third thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about Twitch Plays Clone X. Twitch Plays is kind of a phenomenon that's first started with Twitch Plays Pokemon. But now we're going to take a look and see how Clone X might be incorporating that whole methodology like they did with the experience, and how that might play into this campaign, and also possibly setting the overall quantity for the Animus eggs. So those are the 3 things we're going to talk about. I did want to talk about some things that I said in the last episode, Artifact 2023. In that episode, I was on a riff. I was just going for it, just fired up and passionate about the whole video gaming aspect. And I said that the Fortnite's gameplay is not good. And every time I watch it, I cringe a little bit because, honestly, I don't really even mean that. I like playing Fortnite. I play it with my kids. We've had some completely epic moments, and that game is a lot of fun. And, to be honest, what I really meant at the heart of it was that it's a pretty simple game, other than the building aspect, which can get pretty complicated. But as far as the traversal, the jump, there's no double jumps. I mean, the way you aim and shoot and the grenades and just all of that, even the third person's perspective, for me, all of that's a pretty basic stuff. If you compare it to Star Citizen, for instance, where you literally have to monitor your hunger levels and your heart rate, and you can man a ship that can have 10 of your friends in the ship doing different things, and the ships themselves are some of them are almost as big as the Fortnite map, plus the procedural generated cities and planets and all that, super complicated craziness, right? So, but when I really think about it, I'm a gamer at heart. Rochambeau, rock paper scissors, that's just one of the oldest games in the world, and it's still one of the best games ever. The simple complexity, and just it doesn't need to be complex necessarily for a game to be good. So for me to say that Fortnite's gameplay wasn't good, I feel pretty bad about that. So I apologize to any Fortnite fans. I'm a Fortnite fan myself, to be honest, because primarily, that Travis Scott concert, my kids, they came and got me and said, hey, there's this big event going on in Fortnite. And I wasn't playing a lot of Fortnite then, but I jumped in with them. We got on our Xboxes, everybody did, and then we jumped into a party together. That concert blew my mind. I never thought that a concert could feel like that on a system, in third person too, on top of it. But it had that concert energy. I mean, it was like a proof of concert. I mean, it was like totally working. Like that vibe that you get when you're in a concert where there's a lot of people and they're all paying attention to the same thing, and that energy that comes with that. Like it works. I mean, it works for gaming. I didn't think it would work on that level, but it did. Fortnite brought that to the table. That was a huge deal. So for them, for that factor alone, I'll always love that game. But also that game is super inclusionary, and it really crosses the whole demographic spectrum, and it brings a lot of people together, possibly because it isn't so complex and you can actually get in there and have some fun. So I think, it did kind of turn me off at first, like what happened with PUBG and how, Fortnite did kind of co-opt that Battle Royale concept. But, they did push it. They pushed it to new levels. So for that, I give them props. So I apologize again. Another thing I did want to cover, too, is, we were talking about some of the other ecosystems out there, like the traditional game studios that are going to be coming for the metaverse. I was talking about Microsoft, how they're trying to purchase Activision at the moment, which is going to give them Halo, Call of Duty, Overwatch, Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, Diablo, Doom. It's going to give them all that. But I forgot to mention Minecraft. Like Microsoft has Minecraft. That's going to be a gigantic deal. If they can ever get that over into NFTs and have that working, that's going to be a huge deal. I didn't mention Roblox, which is also going to be another huge metaverse. It already is. I mean, if anybody's really pushing it, I would say they're probably closest, honestly, for one of the traditional game studios. Then we talked about Take-Two Interactive with Grand Theft Auto. Didn't mention Nintendo, right? I mean, Super Mario, all the platformer aspects, but whatever. Paper Mario, Mario Party, Super Mario Kart, right? But then outside of that, you have Animal Crossing, Metroid, and Legend of Zelda, among some other ones too, right? But they're gonna have a crazy metaverse too. So plus Disney and Sony. It's gonna be really interesting how all of that plays out. And I think Artifact with Nike and Clone X, it's gonna be really interesting how that all shakes out. Like, are they gonna do their own thing? I mean, everybody in all of those verses is gonna want Nike gear, right? But Artifact and Clone X is going to kind of have the market cornered on that. So they're going to be in a really great position to either completely do their own thing, which that's what I'm hoping for, or also, just be incorporated into one of the other ones and one of the other verses. So I don't know. I mean, right now, I think it's going to be really smart for Artifact to just do their own thing, make sure that they have their own verse, make sure that it's interoperable. I'm sure that they're already trying to form relationships, because this is like Game of Thrones out here, Game of Clones status. Like Artifact's going to be needing to set up interoperability with whoever they can get. I mean, these partnerships out here are crucial. Like, if Artifact and Nike could get an interoperability portal with Disney, for instance, that's a huge strategic advantage. Or, so setting up those relationships could be a huge deal. I did forget, since we were already talking about Epic, right? They got the Unreal Engine, which is obviously it's just growing leaps and bounds, it seems like every day, but they're making a metaverse with Lego. Whoa. Talk about Epic and Lego that know how to cross demographical boundaries. Like, Lego's a huge deal, and no one's really talking about it, but they announced that, and they're working on it. So that's going to be a huge metaverse play. That's going to take a lot of attention from all over the place. And I would have to think that they're probably going to have ties in with Disney. Lego's super tied in with Disney. I would think that if Epic's, maybe they're going to have some interoperability with Lego and the Disneyverse. So anyway, there's a lot going on. So without further ado, we're already like 10 minutes in. Let's jump in to the video and take a look at what this week has in store for us. This is gonna be a huge week. So let's get fired up, right? Let's do this. Okay, so now let's jump in to the space pod burning mechanism and campaign and just any other kind of information that we have, right? Here we go. This is why we're here. Okay, so first off, let's just jump right into the tweet that set it all off. This was February 2nd, 2022. It was kind of buried in a thread also, but we've seen the creators in the community creating and anticipating that and love it. We're preparing our updates of the pod ecosystem, starting with the upcoming airdrop. Later, we will allow base pod owners to upgrade their pods by burning the base pod given at Christmas. So this was a gigantic deal, right? Like, it was already super cool that Clone X, which is a top flight AAA NFT project out here partnering with Nike, they're delivering the space pods in short order right after the reveal of the mint vials. So it's like so crazy that land was already being distributed that quickly, because we had not seen that in many other top flight NFT ecosystems at that point. So for them to be already ready with their pods, that was a huge deal. But then to also offer an innovation that I don't believe we had seen in the NFT ecosystem to that point, which is to combine the land by burning it and then having that change into something larger and different with different utility. And now here we are on the cusp of the event. This is like a landmark event here, really. I mean, where's this going to lead? What kind of new utility or functionality is going to come out of this? What's this going to mean for the lore and our way forward as a community? It's a really big deal. I mean, I'm fired up, kind of nervous. Like, I got all of it going on. You know, over this last year, it's been kind of an up and down roller coaster. There's been some delays, some disappointments, but there's been a lot of excitement. Honestly, the delay could have been a good thing in a way too, because look at this tweet right here. They weren't planning on including the loot pods, but then later, after some thought and some community feedback and stuff, like, all of a sudden, you know, they're going to include the loot pods. So that was a huge deal. Brought a lot more value to the loot pods for all of us. So the delay was a good thing in some ways too. So yeah, so now here we go. Let's look at, you know, one of the first videos that we saw a while ago. This was the warning video, or at least the video where we got to see the planet killer for the first time, which is kind of what we're dealing with now. That's leading to this exodus. So you can see the planet killer coming in. I mean, who sent the planet killer? That's a really big deal. But that was Clone X story mode. That was kind of the kickoff video that was like, hey, we're getting into story mode now. Lore rollout all over the place. And then just recently, we got to see this timeline video. Which is a really big deal. You can see the warning here with the Eridani speeder ship, the signal sent by the progenitor, and then the Exodus. So that's great that they're communicating more, showing us the timeline, and just giving us more information and hyping us up and getting us fired up. You know, like, before the theatrical trailer, which we're about to watch in a moment, I was looking for information all over the place to see what might be coming here. And I went to Yarlin's page, his Twitter page, and then followed that to his site. I mean, to be honest, you know, I go there from time to time just to get a glimpse of what might be coming. And then if you go to, you know, illustrations up top here, you can see there's a lot of great illustrations here. And now, like, when I'm looking back here, I'm starting to wonder if these illustrations, they could be some pretty big foreshadowing in these illustrations. I mean, definitely like, let's look at this onward page. Okay, there's a ship right there. Okay, it's a pretty big ship. It's a frigate. It's called the Carina. That's what that ship's called. So the title, the lore behind this picture: leaving our fallen world, we took to the stars in search of a new home. With uncertainty looming and our species at stake, we go onward with hope, curiosity, and promise to not dance to the missteps of those who came before us. So it's a single ship transport. But, you know, that lore right there is talking about leaving a fallen world in search of a new home. I mean, Exodus? Sounds like it. Is that ship going to be part of it? I don't know. Possibly not, but this might just been early concepts. But then, clearly, you can see this. You're probably familiar with this from a couple of these videos here. This is called the Eridani S13 Speeder. It's beautiful, right? It's a great. It looks a little like Rey's ship from Star Wars, but it's a really great design. The S13, it's got the engines on the outside here, which is definitely different than Rey's ship, but the color scheme's great. Just the work in general, I love it. It's super imaginative. So yeah, this is from Arc Industries, which it looks like Arc Industries could play a big role here in the whole rollout of the Artifact Metaverse. So we saw that, and then the last picture I wanted to take a look at here, and it's not the only ones that we should take a look at, but I don't want to. We could take all day looking at these pictures and speculating, but here we can see something that's called the Harvest Chamber. I've stumbled upon an eerie chamber, some sort of hatchery or incubation area. I'm going in for a closer look. Right? Like, check that out. Clearly, I mean, this is the person, Jarlin, who I believe is the focal or the lead. I mean, he's directing the videos at this point. And his character, along with his vehicles, are in these trailers. So it's looking like he's possibly the world crafter or the lead of it. I mean, you know, definitely the founders are going to lead the way ultimately. But Jarlin looks like it's a lot of his vision here is coming to life. I mean, and this picture right here, you can see like we've got eggs. So I don't know how long they've all been working on this together, but it's getting pretty interesting. Weird thing is, you can see there that person is as big as the egg. I mean, that seems a little weird, right? Like the eggs that we've seen, they seem pretty small. But anyway, maybe there's different size eggs for different size creatures. But this is an area clearly where there's an incubation area or a hatchery or harvest chamber. Maybe the 20 by 20 pod is really a harvest chamber, or it has a harvest chamber within whatever the structure is, which could have some kind of lead in with the Animus eggs and possibly give you an advantage for harvesting either more rare Animus or speeding up their growth or something. I mean, we're all kind of thinking that. I mean, I've thrown theories out there. Other people have thrown theories out there. It seems pretty obvious that there's going to be a little bit of a tie-in there, right? So let's go back to the theatrical warning, the theatrical trailer for the warning. Here we go. Wow, there's a lot going on there, isn't there? I mean, at the end of the day, if I had to just sum up this trailer really quickly, right? Yarlin's clone is on the S13 Eridani speeder and has been alerted that there was some kind of a probe sent to this planet. That probe, it seems to be something sent by whoever also sends planet killers. That probe is basically out there searching for anything that is creating. So it's kind of like the destruction or, FUD at the end of the day. But so that probe goes to a planet or something, finds out if there's a lot of creativity or creation going on there. Then it sends a signal back to a planet killer, and then the planet killer comes in to destroy the planet. Now, Yarlin's scout here, this clone, is trying to get a message back to the solar city, but it's blocked. Maybe if it's in a certain proximity of the probe, it can't send out anything, electromagnetic field block. Or maybe he had to get to a certain plateau to send the message, but there you go, the message was sent. And now you can see Yarlin's clone jumps out and kind of looks back at Solar City almost as if to say goodbye, right? Because kind of figures that maybe that message went out a little bit too late. Then you can see up in the sky that the message here is that that's the planet killer. But it could be some type of M. Night Shyamalan situation, right? Where that's actually some kind of a vehicle that's coming to rescue everybody to take them on the planet, and then the planet killer's coming. You never know. But if you had to guess, you'd have to say that that's probably the planet killer. That's the foreshadowing there. So great trailer, directed by Yarlin. Music, once again, by Jam Pants. So I'm really fired up that they got Jam Pants doing the music, because it's really, I don't know, just really killing it on all of the music. So hats off to Jam Pants for sure. And hats off to Benoit or whoever else got him involved, because great choice. So yeah, this is a super hypey trailer right here. And it's a great way to go into the campaign. So what other kinds of information did we get? Let's just take a look at it. There was this picture right here at some point that went out, and this looks great. I mean, as you can see up at the top here, I don't know if you can see my mouse cursor, but up at the top there seems to be some type of a ship up there. And as you can see, these are portals. Well, they look like a portal type structure. Honestly, they look a little similar to some of the ones that we've seen in 10KTF and other projects. Not to say that that's what's happening here, but this does look like some type of portal situation. Possibly even at the end there, it looks like there's like 3 types of portals, and it looks like the third one has some type of an element featured inside of the portal, and definitely the Animus looks very fired up to see whatever that is. So maybe that's some type of elemental resource that the Animus can use to gain power or change power. But it's a great little picture right there that, giving us some lore, giving us some feels for the whole verse. Okay, I had this tweet right here. Right when I saw the trailer come out. My early guess is that the first burn option is the Eridani S13 speeder bike, and the second burn is the large-scale spaceship. Are our current pods actually escape vehicles that will upgrade to escape pods? If there is a larger escape ship, what might the benefit of having that be? So, I think we should take a look at this right here. This is probably the most exciting thing that's come out about all of this just recently. this is the breakdown, right? So we can see we got the 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 space pod, 2 loop pod. Obviously 3 we don't know, and 4 we don't know. The only thing we know about 3 and 4 is the amount of pods it's going to take to create those. So in 3, 2 space pods, 2 loop pods, and then 4 is 10x that. 20 space pods, 20 loop pods. And as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 types of characteristics associated with each one. And the only ones we know so far are weight, placeholders, and portals. If I had to guess, I would say, you know, I put out a tweet that was kind of wondering, why are we seeing weight? You know, like when you're talking about pods or you're talking about a house or something like that, you don't talk in terms of weight. Because no one ever says, hey, how much does your house weigh? That's not really something that like people say or do or whatever, but you do say that about vehicles. And why do you say that about vehicles? Because it tells you like how it moves in a way, you know, how much energy it takes to move. Also how agile it might be, that kind of thing. So you definitely want to know the weight of transport. So that makes me think they're all transports, because even the space pod and the loop pod have transports, and both of those or have weight, and both of those are also set to be upgraded for free. So let's think for a second now. That's actually pretty cool, right? Because like if your space pod, for instance, is actually like an escape pod, so each space pod can actually take off and then land somewhere else. In a way, it's like flying land, which is great. It's not just that it's a ship too, but it's somewhere you can that you can live and set up like an apartment. But it's flying land, so you can take your land to whatever planet you want, which is really great, right? You can't do that with your house now or with your vacation property now, but in this metaverse, you're going to be able to take your property and like possibly inhabit different planets or whatever and find whatever situation's best for you. I like that idea. That's another innovation that's better than having like a, you know, vacation rental type land. So placeholders, I don't know what we don't know what any of this stuff is. Obviously, there's question marks. But if I had to guess, placeholders, does that mean already what we've seen with the on-cyber type situation where you can have placeholders for your NFTs up on the walls? Yeah, that's seems like that's what that is. Portals, that's another on-cyber innovation right there. How many portals can you have inside of your vehicle? I mean, that's cool. Portals are going to be a bigger deal when we can actually walk around and actually inhibit or, you know, like be inside of these vehicles. Then portals are going to start really mattering, especially when it comes to multiplayer and stuff. So now, what are the other ones? There was Rick Z, I believe. He put out a tweet trying to get us all to talk about it and stuff, and everybody's been speculating all over the place anyway. It's just like, what are these question marks? You know, I was saying that possibly like a weapon system. What kind of weapon system does it have? You could have number of passengers on there, number of Animus eggs that it could hold. What else? I mean, so you got speed, number of Animus it can hold, number of people that it can hold, weapon systems, maybe shield capacity, or yeah, I mean, you know, it could be anything really. But the cool thing is we don't even know what 5 of them are, and that's pretty exciting. But that also brings us to like, what could it really be? A 20 space pod and 20 loop pods. Gosh, you know, I don't know. When I think of the smaller one, I'm thinking it's probably gonna be that ship. You know, this one right here that we saw. That's a tough call though. It's super interesting because are you gonna burn 2 loop pods and 2 space pods to get this speeder? And I mean, because you're giving up. Are you really gonna give up land to get the speeder? How about this? What if it's like this? 2 space pods, 2 loop pods, boom, combine them. What do you get? you get a new type of pod. It's like a garage. Maybe it's a garage with the speeder combo or something. So like it's like your pod gets upgraded, but it gets upgraded into a pod that has a garage, and inside the garage is a speeder. Something like that, because I think it would be a little rough just to trade in 2 or actually 4 pieces of what is supposed to be land for a speeder, unless there is a super serious benefit for having the speeder. So I don't know. We're not exactly sure what this could be. We're not even, hey, there's no telling that it could be the speeder at all. It could just be something totally different, right? I mean, it does seem that we're looking at a speeder and that we're looking at, something like a larger type ship. And maybe the large ship has some type of, hatchery or something involved in it. It could maybe have something that plays into the pods, the Animus, and the clones. There definitely could be something like that involved. I mean, I know there was at one point we did have Benoit saying something about how there could be an intermingling between the pods, Clone X, and the Animus. And that was just recently, actually, that he said that. So, I don't know. I would not be surprised. There was also this picture too. Like, we remember this one. I covered this in a video prior. But on the image on the right side, clearly it kind of looks like this one right here. It's got some of the same features, it appears. So, yeah, I mean, it clearly, it seems like there's going to be a bigger pod. But here's the question. 20 space pods, 20 loot pods. That's 40 pods. Oh, that's 40 pieces of land. I mean, again, if this is going to be just a ship, that is a really big ask. And, one thing I would like to know personally, there's 2 big questions that I have. One is you burn it and that's it? There's no coming back. There's no changing it, right? Like, so if you go 2020 and you burn it into this new situation, those pods are gone. I'm just want to make sure that there's no coming back from that or changing that into something else or anything like that. So that would be one thing that would be cool to know. Another thing, I would like to maybe just call it the merchant dilemma. If you've ever played like a role-playing game, you know that you don't ever buy the items at the first town that you go to. Because the second that you dig into the game and you're out there and you're fighting, you're going to get stuff that's better than the stuff that the merchant was offering. So I'm kind of getting a little merchant dilemma vibes. And let me explain it a little further, okay? So I just want to make sure that if people are out here burning 20 space pods and 20 loot pods for this ship, okay, that down the line here, we're not just going to see ships that are even better than that ship selling for less money in a marketplace. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I would like to make sure that, like, if you're going to burn 40 land for this ship, that it's super worth it, even down the line, that they maintain its viability down the line so that it's not just, like, I don't want to see a huge range of ships that cost like $1,000 and they're better than the ship that you burned 40 pods for. I hope they can make sure to preserve its utility or whatever it is that makes it special. If it's a ship, we don't even know that it's a ship. It clearly looks like it is, but it might not be. I don't know. I mean, we're just speculating here. So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. You know, we dug into the trailers. We looked at the portal picture with the butterfly clone, and we looked at the schematic. We broke that down a little bit. And yeah, to be honest, I think that's about it for this section. So let's move on to the Animus section now and look at what could possibly lead to some breeding, perhaps. All right, let's dig in. Okay, so in this section, we're going to talk about Animus Breeding. That's right. It's just a hypothesis. This is just a guess here. But based on some of the tweets that I've seen recently from the team, namely Benoit, it seems like maybe we could be seeing Animus Breeding coming up here. I mean, let's take a look at this tweet right here. So this is the tweet that I put out in reference to one of Benoit's tweets. Looking back at the tweet from Benoit and wondering if he was referencing the Animus collection when he mentioned breeding tech will be introduced in another collection. Okay, that was in response to Beatles WT, a question about the breeding mechanic. Now, Benoit said, just specifically here, Evo X Vials collection is focused on evolution and opening that door in NFTs. But the breeding tech will be introduced in another collection, as you need to design with breeding in mind and have your collection initial number tailored for that too. You know, it's so weird, like looking back in the day, I feel like I had blinders on with the whole shoes thing, because I was thinking, okay, so the Evo X version is going to be these shoes that evolve. And then there's going to be a breeding section for shoes where there's going to be shoes that you can breed together to create different shoes. Now, looking back, and that seems crazy. Now it seems pretty obvious that what they meant was that the breeding tech was for Animus. You know, a whole nother collection. Like, breeding tech will be introduced in another collection, and you have to design with the breeding in mind to have your collection initial number tailored for that too. So yeah, I mean, right now at this moment, I would have to say, if I'm guessing strictly, because I am, I would say that Animus are going to be able to be bred. So what does that look like? I mean, we can take a look real quick at really a legendary collection here. And I haven't really kept up. I don't own any Axie Infinity, and I haven't really kept up with the collection too much, but I'm always pulling for it because they were really innovative in pushing the envelope and bringing a lot of gamer attention to NFTs. And it seems like everything was going great until they had a gigantic hack for like $600 million out of their development fund. So between that and their tokenomics structure not having enough sinks, so there was too many faucets, meaning there was too much of their token being created and not enough of it being spent. So the AXS and the SLP tokens were just flying everywhere because everybody was out there battling, trying to earn those. And the way that the system set up where you could breed and the way that you could create those, it was just too much, and there was just not enough interesting sinks to pour them into. But they did have breeding, and that was a big deal. That was a big deal for NFTs at the time. I mean, people were breeding Axies and making a ton of money. But like here, if we look, let's look at a little bit of some of the breeding limitations. They had something like you could only breed your Axie 7 times, which would leave Axies that had not been bred that much, they would be worth more money because you could create more Axies from them. So there's a little bit of a, tokenomics in there, breedonomics or something where you gotta I don't know, you just have to really know what you're doing when you're breeding these things. Sibling Axies and parents and offsprings could not breed, and the breeding costs vary depending on how many times the parent Axies have been bred. So if you've already bred it like 5 times, then the 6th time is going to cost a lot more possibly than the 5th time. So they had kind of like an elevated structure as it went, as you were breeding. But, you know, it goes exactly how you think it would, but they have a pretty cool UI here where, you know, all your Axies have different characteristics and different stats, and you're more likely to get the stats you want if you breed with another Axie that has those characteristics. So we all know how breeding works. That's how it works here too. But you had to use SLP, Smooth Love Potion, as they call it, to actually breed them. So, and it costs money, you know, brought the money back to the ecosystem, which is good because you always want some money coming back for the ecosystem so they can grow. But, you know, it was cool. They had cost tables, calculators, and simulators to let you know what you might end up with. But as you can see, there's eggs here. That's hilarious because it's kind of what we're talking about too. But yeah, Axie Infinity, one of the largest NFT collections at one point, the biggest game in NFTs, had breeding. And now we're looking at some tweets from Benoit talking about breeding tech will be introduced in another collection. Here's a new collection called Animus. There's eggs, there's creatures. Seems way more likely that they're going to be breeding, and that could be a big deal for the tokenomics of the Animus. And I mean, Benoit at one point said that the rarity structure was going to be a little bit different than like it is for clones or other PFP projects. Is maybe something new or unique. We'll have to stay tuned to see. You know, if you have an Animus egg, you reveal it. How are you going to determine what it's the value proposition for it? You know, like hopefully the new traits will be easy to understand, and will the market will know how to price them properly. But yeah, it seems like this is what's going to happen here. Then again, I'm just guessing and I don't know. So do your research and make sure you're paying attention and don't just make moves based on that, right? Because this is not financial advice, as always. And also, here's another tweet that put out recently. I'm thinking about how and if pods are going to tie into the space, how pods are going to tie into the space pods. I'm remembering this tweet from Benoit. It does seem that based on this tweet that pods, eggs, and clones are intertwined. Nothing for certain, just guessing. So Benoit's tweet, this was in reference, this was that tweet thread he put out right around, I believe it was on Christmas or the New Year, where he was just addressing, you know, some of the concerns that the community had. And one of the bullet points was being better, that their team would be better communication. The message is clear. A new collection or new collector experience for clones and egg owners that will also involve pods. So here we are. The space pod burning campaign is coming up, and we have one pod structure that demands 40 pods, 20 space pods and 20 loot pods. It seems like it's going to have something to do with Animus. You know, I mean, I always got to give credit to Everyday Hemi because he's the one that kind of first got me really thinking about it, which was that there's going to be some kind of incubator or something inside the ship or inside the pod. So, well, how would that work? You know, is it going to help your Animus grow faster, or is it going to help it become more rare? And if it's going to be part of these pods, how is that going to work over the long term, right? Because let's say like all of the Animus are hatched. Well, is there really any need to have incubators in your pods if that's the case? Unless there is a breeding mechanic, and the Animus can breed, and those new eggs need to be in incubators as well. So there's a lot going on. We're going to find out a lot this week, huh? Right? There's a lot of questions, but it's super interesting. So just some stuff to think about here. And, honestly, there's not a whole lot more information on this, but at this point, personally, I'm not telling you to believe this. I personally think that these Animus are going to be able to create other Animus. And, there's already people that are worried about how many Animus are going to be out there. Already people are worried about that. But for me, I'm fired up for it. I mean, if you have an Animus now, yeah, you want them to be able to create more Animus. Because I think you want more people in on this ecosystem. So, but I hear you guys that don't just want to dilute everything. I totally understand that. And I'm with that too. Like, you don't want to just create things to just create them. I mean, if we have 900,000 Animus out there, what are they going to be worth? Like, $1.50? Like, none of us want that, right? But it kind of depends on how the Animus are used. Like, do you want a bunch of Animus, and do you use them like Pokemon, where you're in a battle, and if you have like 20 Animus in your bank, you could pick the right Animus to battle? Then I could see somebody who's serious wanting a big assortment of Animus behind them when they go into battle, so they have options. What I'm saying here is the dilution is going to have something to do with whether or not, or how interesting the mechanic is for the Animus. So I'm not gonna just like make any judgments just right now. I'm sure they thought of a lot of this, and it's gonna be really interesting to see how it plays out. So yeah, that's about it. That's about all the information we have for the Animus breeding. So let's move on to the final segment, which is Twitch Plays Clone X. All right, let's go. All right, so here we go. This is our third and final segment, Twitch Plays Clone X. Now, I'm not sure if you were part of the experience last time, but it was incredible. It was on Twitch, which was it. That immediately set off to me like, wow, why are we on Twitch for this game, or for this interaction with Artifact? But then I think back to the days of Twitch Plays Pokemon, and I remember I posted this as Artifact News a while ago, September 20th, 2022, and this was one of the most important events in video game history, in my opinion, was Twitch Plays Pokemon. 121,000 players. Actually, it was like 1.2 million. Controlling one character. A DAO in action, though it was regulated a bit. I wonder if one day an Artifact DAO could be used to control the King of Clone X in a battle against another PFP DAO. So... yeah, I don't know. I mean, this was such a huge deal because for some reason, Twitch has this brilliant mechanic where basically in the comment section, people can post actions, and those actions will be carried out by the program. So when you have a bunch of people in the chat and, they're pressing, they say up or down or left, right, BA, select, start, right? If whatever they put in there, the character on the screen will move. But what happens when you have 10,000 people doing that at this exact same time? Well, I mean, why did I say this is one of the most important events in video game history? Because this transcends video games, clearly. This is about a lot more than video games. Okay, this is about a community, country, gigantic collective of people working together to control one system in real time. Like maybe that gets us closer towards like some ultimate real-time government where government's just streaming over the internet, where everyone's able to represent themselves away from a representative government, and people can just throw their input in towards the system, and all those people control the system together. That's kind of what this was like leaning towards, right? Like, is this possible? and what happens when a group of people get together and do something like this. So I don't know that there's been many more culturally relevant events of this magnitude in the last, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years, I don't know. A long time. Something like this doesn't come around often. What happened? There was religions that were formed off this, okay? The bird Jesus, and like everybody named these characters, and there was a government that formed out of it, where there was like a democracy versus an anarchy. And there was people there were politicians that were running campaigns to they wanted anarchy, or there was people that wanted democracy, and so political systems formed, religious system formed, and ultimately they ended up beating the game, which is crazy because there was 1 million people controlling this one little character on this game. So Twitch Plays Pokemon was a huge deal, and it looks like I think that's what Artifact did on the experience, where they had us basically get in there and decide the fate of some of these systems that they had in place. Now, I don't necessarily know what was going on behind the scenes. Is that truly what happened? I may have missed an interview here or there that people talked about it, but I don't know that they've clearly outlined what the mechanic was. But there was a moment there when we saw the eggs fall, and it was as though everybody who was participating chose the wrong thing, and then a bunch of the Animus eggs fell from the shelves. So, I have a little tweet here that Twitch has a mechanic that allows a community to control the outcome of a program. Artifact used the mechanic during the experience. The community chose incorrectly at one point, causing eggs to drop. Might this mechanic be used to determine the future supply? Just a guess. Well, that could be the case. I mean, is that what we're going to see tomorrow on the campaign? Are we going to see another Artifact plays Twitch, or Twitch plays Artifact, or Twitch plays Clone X more precisely? That would be pretty cool. I think it's a little bit more inclusionary versus the very difficult puzzles, because no one can match J Topcat's talent, and there are some community members that help for sure, and I'm not discounting anybody or anything, but if you're really not a professional puzzle solver, or you're not really into that subculture, it's going to be pretty hard to decipher some of those puzzles. So, but when we're all working together, I'm using the Twitch platform to make these decisions together, that seemed very cool. And I could see that being the determining factor in the future for the total supply of eggs as well. I mean, I'm going to open up the FAQ really quick for the Animus. Hold on one moment here. Okay, so let's take a look at the Project Animus FAQ. Okay, there's the question right there. What is the total supply? Well, the answer is that the final supply will not hasn't been defined yet. It'll be determined by future lore moments. Okay. The initial egg supply claimable by clones is capped at 20k. The total final supply will not exceed 40k. Okay. So, future lore moments are going to determine the final supply of the eggs. We saw before in Twitch Plays Artifact, basically, or Clone X, in the experience, we saw eggs fall to their demise. Quite possibly coming up in the near future, even possibly in this space pod campaign, we could see a moment where the number of eggs is going to be determined by a Twitch type system where we all collectively make moves together. I would say it's almost, now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more clearly, I'm thinking that tomorrow during the campaign, it's quite possible that we're trying to get off the planet in an Exodus type manner, and maybe not all the eggs make it with us. And that might be determined by our actions inside the system and whether or not we answer correctly some of the questions. So that the future lore moments literally could be in Exodus this week. And if we don't answer the questions properly, possibly all of the eggs don't make it with us. And that will determine our final supply. So that's pretty much it for this section, really. It's just, this campaign, we could possibly see a Twitch Plays Clone X type situation. And during that, not only will we possibly fire up the engines to get off of this planet, but also, we could possibly determine the amount of Animus eggs on the market after this. Maybe not all the eggs make it with us. So that's it really for Twitch Plays Clone X. I wanted to talk a little bit about Twitch Plays Pokemon too, because I think that's one of the most important video game moments of all time. And it's really cool to see Artifact picking up on that and using that type of a system. And also that we all get to together make these decisions. So that's very, very cool. All right, thank you for dropping by Artifact News for episode 13, Space Pod Burning, The Warning. Tomorrow is going to be a huge day, and this whole week is going to be huge for us. A lot more information. We're really going to have a way better understanding of where we're going in the future, and I got to tell you, I am super, super excited. Like I said in the beginning, it's about a year in the making here. So I am just fired up. And I'm so glad to have you along with me on the ride. And, if you would like to help support me, just please leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you have to say anyway. And subscribe if you're not already. I think I need to get about 1,000 subscribers. We're at about 140 at the moment. So your support could really go a long way. I think, to monetize, you need about 1,000. So, I'm not even sure if I'm going to monetize or not yet. We'll see when it comes to that. But I'd like to at least have the option. And with your support, I can get there. So I just want to keep making these. In fact, what I would like to do is just make these every day, interject some live elements. I have a lot more ideas I'd like to get to, but step at a time. So you're here with me at the beginning, and I really appreciate you for that. That's really cool. So yeah, hey, let's get fired up. Big week ahead. Space pod burning. Let's do this. Go news yourself. Peace.